This is a 2001 BMW 325i. It hasn't been driven in over 5 years. In this video, we're going to see if we can bring it back to life. We'll make sure we have good fluids before we try. Oi, that's not good. You see that? It smells like fuel. Injectors have been leaking and flooded the crankcase with fuel. We call this making oil. So before we even start this thing, we gotta drain the oil out, fill it up with fresh oil. That's a shame. That's brand new oil. So now that we have oil in there, obviously this battery's gonna be dead. Found the mirror cover. Mint. So our gauge shows we have some fuel in there. So if I turn the key on, I don't hear a fuel pump running. Relay fuel pump activation, 30 seconds. Yep, I hear it coming on. So let's check, see if we have any fuel pressure up here. Quick and easy fuel pressure check. Watch your eyeballs. And we got fuel pressure. Don't smell like good fuel, but it's pressure. Just in case you were wondering, no fault codes. So, ignition coil, very simple. This is 3-wire ignition coil, but don't be confused. The ECM is the one that does the switching, not like a typical 3-wire coil. These are ground side switched, so that means it should have a constant 12 volts when the key is on, which it is now. If not, you likely have a blown fuse. We now have power. So since we know that we have power at our ignition coil, I'm just going to add a amp clamp onto the main power feed so that if there's no amperage, we know that's because the ECM's not commanding the ground side for the coils. So let's go. So we saw that we have a current ramp, which means the ECM's commanding our coils and they're likely firing. So let's take a look at our injectors next. BMW's weird about fuses. I'm going to test at the fuel injector relay instead. We're going to verify that it is receiving a command. So we know the relay is receiving a command to turn on 85 and 86. So let's switch our relay on. We'll grab our amp clamp, put it around there. So now we should be able to see the current on all our injectors. So now we got start and oh, look at that. She fixed herself. That's what I get. That's what I get. Here we got our capture from that little short time that it ran. So this is our fuel injectors, and we could see a pintle bump in most of them. So our injectors are now firing, so we have a bad relay. Got another relay in there. Let's see if she'll crank over. Yeah, so just that bad relay that was stopping it from starting up. Now we gotta figure out what's up with this start stall. My guess is gonna be the fuel quality. Obviously a bad idea. Am I still going to do it? Yeah. So, just in case what you're wondering good fuel looks like, it does not look like that. Does not smell like that either. No, stupid idea. So, let's drain the fuel out of this thing. That's what good fuel looks like. So to drain the tank, I'm taking the easy but long way. My rail going to a jug. I'm going to command the pump. This activates it for 30 seconds. So every once in a while I'm just going to be hitting the activate button. I have to work on something else. That was a lot shorter than 30 seconds. So change of plan. That's going to take forever if it only energizes for a couple seconds each time. And the fuel pump relay absolutely sucks to get to. I can get to the fuel pump connector much faster. Yeah. So I have my 2 thicker wires here. I know those are going to be our main power feeds. My best guess is brown's going to be ground, and that white with the blue stripe is going to be power. But let's verify. Just going to turn the key on. And power. And so I can safely assume this brown one's going to be my ground. If this were a pulsive modulated fuel pump or a 3-phase fuel pump, I would be more careful about doing this, but this is a simple 12-volt DC motor, and I am not all too worried. It will current limit itself. So we're gonna give it some power and ground and watch the fuel flow. So with it powered on, we can hear our fuel pump still running. No fuel's coming out though. So either tank is empty or that fuel pump's pulling up air. Let me show you a way to figure that one out. Alright, so I got the scope back here. I got an amp clamp around my ground wire. We're going to give this pump power. This is our fuel pump waveform. Each of these little bumps is a bump in the commutator, or a different commutator as it passes by, and it creates its own little signature waveform. That's perfectly normal. So we're going to look for 2 similar ones, and I'm noticing this one that has the little peak on there. So we're going to count from there. Most fuel pumps are going to be a commutator one. There are some 10s. So I'm on that little peak there. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and see how it has that little peak again. So we know this fuel pump has made 1 full revolution in approximately 3 milliseconds. So that's the period. 3 milliseconds is the period. So we do 1 divided by 3. We'd get 333. We then multiply that by 60. That gets us right around 20,000. So this pump is spinning right around 20,000 RPMs, which is way too fast. This is telling me that that fuel tank is empty because 1, the current is way too low. So this pump itself is barely working. With the current itself, we can't really tell if the pump is bad or not. But with this waveform, we can see that pump is spinning, and it's spinning fast. So we know that this pump is picking up air. So either the pickup itself is damaged or that tank is empty. Oi, Betsy. Gentle, gentle. So we can see we're pretty empty, just a little bit of scraps here and there. BMW does use a saddle tank setup, so I was thinking there might be an issue with it drawing from here, but this tank is also empty. So we know We were just low on fuel and that gauge was misreporting. Can you guess what I'm gonna clean up this extra fuel with? Yep, a brake bleeder. How'd you know? Works pretty well. That should be enough to start and run for a little bit. Doesn't look the best, but it doesn't have that varnish smell anymore, so I think this might just run. And since I don't have much fuel to spare, so with the fuel pump commanded on, I'm getting maybe 10 psi of fuel pressure, which way too low. And it looks like we have a restriction, most likely the fuel filter. Getting a gauge in here doesn't look to be fun at all. I'm just going to do a little quick pinch test to see if I have pressure here. So I just got my plier on here. I'm just feeling how much pressure it takes to pinch that side off. So I'm going to activate my fuel pump and I should feel some pretty good pushback on here. Don't feel much at all on this side. I wonder if it's just returning all the fuel. Oh wow, that guy. The fuel return feels like it's the most pressurized thing in here. Is that the fuel feed then? I wonder, if I just pinch off this return, will I have good fuel pressure to start? I'm not going to pinch it off all the way. Just enough to up the pressure. Let's hook my gauge up to the front and see if that brings our pressure up. Going to activate the fuel pump. That's it. Popping 5 psi. I'm going to go pinch off the hose. That should be the feed. Got the other line pinched off. Activate. And oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. So, we know that pump can make pressure. Let's see if that freed up that pressure regulator. Hopefully didn't blow a line anywhere. So I bled down our system. I do have a fuel leak now. Let's go take a peek where that's at. Ah, okay. It just looks like a hose clamp. Let me tighten that guy up. And it's leaking worse now. Nope, I blew the line itself. Nice big hole in the back of it. So there's the line. So now with the pump running, we're getting around 32 psi. I believe spec is 3.5 bar for this thing, but we don't have any leaks now. Let's see if that's enough to get us started. Gonna monitor our fuel pressure. That holds pretty steady. Oh, look at that, we're idling. Look at that. I still think that pressure spec is way too low though. That might be a big reason why we're losing a little bit of fuel pressure. And it's still leaking. We got it running. I'm gonna wrap it up there for the day. We got a lot more issues to tackle. So I came back here to jump it because I have my battery charger in the front. And it's safe to say, we got a tinsy-wincy water leak. It's not draining at all. Fuck was that? Oh. I'm glad I'm getting rid of this thing.